Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, welcome Talking Buffalo, part of the Blue Wire Network. This is the start of for me anyway, a big week, man. A happy week, a milestone week, not just for me, but also my guest today, by the way. Podcast wise, this is 5 years, Joe. 5-year anniversary of this podcast. Been going for a while now, man. And on your end, and of course, if you listen on the audio side, I am talking about Joe Yerdon, writer, podcaster, sports media personality, and far and away through these 5 years, my most frequent guest. And I mean, it's not even close, buddy. I did some little bit of homework before we hooked up today. First appearance, Joe Yerdon on Talking Buffalo, which was called Moran Analytics Podcast, by the way, back then. Episode 53, all the way back on September 14th, 2018.
Wow.
So for perspective, Josh Allen wasn't even officially the starting quarterback of the Buffalo Bills at that time. Crazy, man. Been a while. How you doing?
I'm just blown away. I remember busting your chops back then for taking so long to get me on the show because I'd already been in Buffalo 5 years at that point, and yeah,
I didn't know you all that well at the time.
Yeah,
when I first had you on, that was actually our first conversation. Of course, over these last couple of years, I've gotten to know you really well, and we've become good friends. But yeah, I know who you were, obviously, following your work and stuff, but I didn't know
following you too. So yeah.
All right. It just went really well. But man, 5 years, and this is episode 540. So you're going back 53, close to 500 episodes ago is the first time I had you on. And by the way, so we're taping this on Monday, dropping this on Tuesday. Maintenance Day, by the way, Maintenance Day podcast dropped late Monday. So if you haven't listen to that yet, of course, Joe and Lance Lazowski from the Buffaloes, make sure you check that out. But anyway, Sunday, our buddy here, Joe, celebrated a birthday, man. Happy birthday, buddy. Happy belated birthday, I should say, anyway.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, big, it's every number is a big number from, it's been a big number from like a few years ago on, but 44, man, that's crazy. It's so weird to think back and because you always get reflective when it's your birthday, right?
Absolutely.
You're always thinking about stuff, but I start thinking about it, and it drives me nuts how time just gets away. Like, it's so strange. It's so weird, man. And like, and it's been happening more, like thinking back and like seeing all this 90s stuff coming back into vogue, and like that 90s show on Netflix, and like seeing all this stuff coming back, and I'm just like, wow. Yeah, that's when I was like a teenager, and I'm like, oh my God. I just get like, oh God, it's I don't think anything prepares you when you're young for when you get to this point in life and you're like, wow, time is unstoppable and undefeated, and I can't do anything about it.
100% agree. And I feel like when you start to get to be our age, and again, I'm a little bit older, and you're not by all that much, but we're in the same bracket at least anyway. Start to get more perspective on things. You start to put a lot more things into perspective. You have a lot more retrospective too when you think back of, everything that goes on now. I kind of liken it to something that was going on back when we were kids, when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
Like, now I sound like that old person, when we were our age, used to this and that, which is funny because later on when we do our, I still don't have a name for this segment. We've been doing it for like 3 or 4 weeks, but I tell you, I steal a couple questions from that salad recipe group on Facebook that I think are pretty good life questions. There's a question about age in there, but anyway, did you do anything specifically Sunday to celebrate the big 4-4?
Not really. Went out and kind of treated myself a little bit. Did like some minor shopping, nothing crazy. Just like bought some like kitchen stuff, which is, if you told me at 18 I'd be doing that at this age, it'd be like, what's wrong, man? Are you okay?
Yeah. And kind of getting at least a little bit excited about it too.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was just stuff that I really needed to get after, it just was like looking around, and I was like, I gotta buy something. It's my birthday, right? Like, you gotta find something cool to buy. And I don't know. I was just, it was a dumb thing to like want to go out shopping on a weekend, like going out to like out on the boulevard somewhere. And I was just like, what am I doing out here? This is it's a good way to ruin my birthday by coming out here. But did that and met up with some friends last night, had some beers, and I discovered that mixing different kinds of beers in one night is just, it's the worst thing to do, man. Like you got to pick a style and ride it out,
Yeah,
or
not easy on the
just not
stomach.
diversify so much that you're just, I mean, my head was just like, what were you thinking, man? Like, it's so stupid. You have a couple and then like you get to the third one, you're like, all right, I can step things up a little bit. I can have a harder one. No, you can't, dude. You're 44 now. Can't do that anymore, man. You can't step up hostilities with the alcohol percentage as the night goes on. Just
right. I agree more. And do you find yourself, and again, yeah, it's not like we're out, you or I are out either together, individually, whatever, not out pounding beers all the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not an every day or every week, I should say, even a occurrence. But do you find yourself as you're starting to get older now, having a little bit more trouble kind of getting 100% that next morning and trying to motivate yourself? Because we were talking a little bit, by the way, Sunday. So I reached out to Joe on Sunday night to ask what time the Sabres were practicing on Monday, because, we tape the show on typically on Monday, sometime in the afternoon. And Joe's like, yeah, they're at 11, and I may or may not be a little bit hungover for that.
Yeah. It was, dude, it was, back when I was like 20s, late in college, post college, all that. I've never got hungover ever, not once. Like, and my buddy and I, we had the perfect hangover cure, which was to go to Taco Bell. Like, it wasn't even a hangover. It was just like that day after boozing meal you'd have. But we would just go get like a ton of Taco Bell and just eat that, and then we were golden after it. Now it's, and I'm talking like I had like 3 or 4 beers max last night.
Yeah,
that's it. Like, nothing crazy, nothing wild. Had some food while I was out, and I'm just like a mess like the whole next day. And I'm like, I didn't even go that hard. It's
right.
But it's also the fact that I'm not doing that anywhere near as much as I used to.
Right.
So
That matters. Sure.
it's a good reason to like feel like crap. And it's like, wow, I really don't need to be doing this anymore.
Right. I'm not willing to go out boozing every single weekend just so I can get better and not being as hungover and get more used to it.
I can't believe I was doing that even like in the slightest, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, like doing that around town here and just being like an idiot. And then, kind of shaking it off the next morning, but being mostly okay by the afternoon. And now it's just like, it's death warmed over. It's so bad.
I would struggle if I were you. I would struggle a little bit living right next to Essex Street Pub to 3-4 times a week pounding some beers, my man.
It's let me tell you, like post games, like there's some nights where it's like, boy, I could use a beer tonight. You go over and hang out, and then you see somebody you haven't seen in a while, like, hey, let's do a shot. And it's like, oh boy, this night could go sideways real quick.
Well, I'm glad you, like I said, I'm glad you enjoyed your birthday, 44, pretty cool age, double 4. For everyone watching this video on YouTube, again, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. And as maybe a belated birthday gift for Joe, make sure you go check out notedhockey.substack.com. $5 per month, man, just absolutely crushing it. And, we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks. I feel like you picked a really good season to jump in and cover the Sabres full time, because it's just a lot of fun, man. And people are eager for content because it's just, it's exciting to watch, man. It's not boring at all. They've been an exciting team, and now they're on the verge of becoming a legitimately good team. Going to talk about them in just a few minutes. Real quick, and I won't go as long as I did last week with these wing reviews of mine, but got to tell you, I did over the last couple of days. So now this is going to be 4 places I've been to in the last 2 weekends, but hit up 2 spots. Neither of them were first timers. Like, I've been to both these places before. In fact, I went with my wife to both of these places. It was her first time at both of them. So just briefly want to talk about one of them in the neighborhood where you live and where I grew up, Sports City Pizza Pub on Niagara Street. And we went there, got medium Cajun, we got hot barbecue, and we got hot garlic parm. And I'll tell you what, Joe, I've never had not just from Sports City, but anywhere. I've never before had hot garlic parm wings before. Like I've had garlic
Mhm.
parm wings, but never
Yeah.
with hot. Pretty good, man. This is a very solid place, man. I feel like
Yeah.
they're very consistent. They're not quite, on that level of the Bar Bill and the Elmos, the
Mhm.
biggest of the big that people talk about all the time. But this is a really low key, solid place. Sal Capaccio, got to give him credit. He put me out for it a couple years ago.
Mhm.
Josh Reed from Channel 4 as well. He's a big fan of this place. I've done a show there. I've been there a handful of times, and it just never disappoints me. And you know this, whether it's wings or whatever kind of sub you like or pizza you like. When you
Yep.
go somewhere, Joe, to me the key is knowing what you're going to get, like that consistency. That's what
Mhm.
that's what I expected and care about the most. And this place is really consistent. I mean, if you love these wings, you're going to like them every time.
Yeah.
If you're not a big fan, they're probably not going to change for you, man. But good, consistent, solid wings. Really nice place. And by the way, they expanded it, so it's even bigger now.
Oh,
And
wow.
if you like sports, there's like freaking a million TVs there, man.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a ton of TVs there, lots of seating, and
Mhm.
a really good, if you're a craft beer guy, man, they got a lot of craft beers, man. More
Oh,
than
yeah.
most places. So it's a nice little place. I can't
Yeah.
remember. I might have asked you this before. Have you had a chance to get there yet?
Yeah, I've been a couple times.
That's
I
right.
really like the pizza there. Pizza there is really good. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah,
I
I
heard
had
they
this
also
place.
yeah, I heard they it's I think it's also the pizza that Mr. Goodbar has for their pizza offerings in the back. So the
Hmm.
team I that's what I've heard. Can't can neither confirm nor deny it, but that's just what I heard. So but that's a nice get to like if you're over at Good Bar having beers there. But the wings I've had are pretty good. They're
Yeah,
pretty good. Hot
they are.
garlic parm I want to try though. Like I was a big garlic parm wing guy before coming to Buffalo. And like if any place had it, I'd be like, all right, let's see what we got here. Just ruining my breath everywhere across Albany. And it was interesting because most places did it. It was like almost too much butter. It was too greasy,
Mhm.
and just like a ton of garlic, which that's good, that's fine. And then how they would parm it up would be different everywhere. Some places would use the powdery,
Right.
grated Parmesan. Some places would use like Parmesan flakes. And I just wow, okay, like trying to class it up or something like that. But yeah, but hot version of that, I've not had that before, so I'm curious.
It was good, man. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the hot barbecue is nothing to write home about. Very
Mm,
average. You can pretty much get that anywhere. Their Cajun is really good. And the only mistake I made was getting medium Cajun. It could have got hotter because their hot's not really that hot. Like I
mhm,
could have stood to have hot Cajun. And that mix was really it was tasty. The only complaint I have about Sports City, and again, I'm always honest with people because I feel like they deserve that. I'm not,
oh, yeah,
I want these people to like and respect me, these owners, but I got to be honest, and I'm a big fan of Mike's, but the wings they're a little bit on the small side. Like they're
mm,
very typical,
yeah,
almost smallish. It's the one thing my wife noticed too. Is like to see the wings be maybe a little bit bigger. Like you get an order of 10, you're going to get 2 or 3 really small ones. But anyway, really flavorful, tasty, and consistent. Great spot, great beer, tons of TVs. Like that place. That was on Thursday. 48 hours. I decided I wanted wings again. And so by the
you got the
way,
itch back, man. Like that's
yeah,
the thing.
I'm
Like,
back. I'm back, baby. But on nine, I wanted to go to 9/11. So I did go to 9/11 on Saturday at 5 o'clock. Forget about it. Hour and 40-minute wait.
woof,
5 o'clock on a freaking Saturday. I thought
woo,
I'd be good. I'm like, all right, I know it's a Saturday, but dinner's like 6 to 7. That's around
mhm,
where I figured it would be nuts. 5 o'clock, and it was an hour and 40-minute wait. So I ended up going to Sunny Reds in Lackawanna. And
mhm,
listen, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this because we got important shit to talk about on this show today. But I am going to give you look at those wings, by the way. If you're watching this on YouTube, they just
good.
look sexy. I am
Mhm,
telling you this, Joe. Here's a hot take, and I mean this. This is something I truly mean.
mhm,
If you like specialty wings, like like Cajun honey double dip and hot honey barbecue and stuff like that,
mhm,
Barbell's better, Elmo's is better. There's I talked about Beltline Brewery last week, those all dressed wings. There's better like specialty flavors. But if
mhm,
you ain't in the mood for gimmicks and you just want to go have some buffalo wings, I know people in Buffalo don't call them buffalo wings, but
right.
traditional hot or medium, these wings are as good or better than Barbell. Straight up. These wings
Wow.
are right there with 911 as the best traditional wings in Western New York, period. I'm telling you, they are
Man,
that freaking
I gotta
good.
go. I haven't been yet. I
They're
mean, I'm
so
not going to
good, dude.
Lackawanna too much, man, but like it's like
They're
you
so good.
saying that means, I mean, for me, because I give you a ton of credit because you've eaten every friggin' wing in the city. So like you know what you're talking about, you know what you've had. And you saying that means okay, I gotta try it. Like I gotta
They're
go, I
that
gotta
good.
go to that point.
They
That
have
good.
they have other wings too, Joe. I mean, they got like some I can't remember what top man. They got a bunch of flavors. They're
Mhm,
just there. But I'm telling you, just if you ain't in the mood for no gimmicks, man, no
mhm,
gimmicks. These are no gimmick wings. They're as good as anybody. They're better, as good or better than Marbill, and right there with 911. They also have brick
mhm.
oven pizza. You said you like the pizza at Sports City, which is good. I agree with you. The pizza at Sunny Reds is on par with some of the best. I'm telling you,
Okay.
Sunny Reds might be the best, most underrated kitchen in Western New York. And if it's not, Beltline Brewery is
Yeah.
one of them two different types of kitchens. But God, man, they are both so freaking good. Anyway,
Yeah, I just wish Lackawanna wasn't such an annoyance for me to drive to. I mean, it's not far. Like nothing here is far. It's just annoying to get to.
yeah,
Uh,
I
you know,
understand
I
that.
mean, it's like I got to hop on like the Skyway or something like that. So I don't deal with
Put it
all
this
that.
way. You're right. And it is annoying. It'd be like, it's like me going to Kenmore, Tonawanda. It's not that far. It's only 20 minutes away, but it's kind of a
Right.
pain in the ass to get to, which I mean, you do it when you need to.
Mhm,
But there's a handful of places in Western New York when it comes to wings that I consider destination wing places. Like,
mhm,
like you live on the west side. I grew up on the west side. Right now, I live in
mhm.
West Seneca. We, for the most part, why do you really need to travel very far to go get your wings? You can go to Lenovo's. You can get some good wings. There's other
Yep.
places on the west side, Sports City Pizza Pub.
Mhm.
But there's places, and only a handful that I call destination wings, where like I will go travel 20, 30 minutes, maybe even a little bit longer, literally just to go sit down and have those wings. And I'm telling you
Mhm.
right now, Sunny Reds is one of those
Wow.
very small amount of places. Only thing that sucks about Sunny Reds though is they're only open 3 days a week now. Thursday,
Ooh,
Friday, Saturday. That sucks, and I hate that. But
that's like the 911
yeah,
tavern schedule where it's the hours are weird, the days are strange, and
yeah,
then it's a very short window that you can get in there.
right, yeah.
I appreciate that the word's gotten out around about them about how good it is. I like seeing that, but it's like when you want to go, then it's you're waiting 2 hours. It's like no, I can't. I
The
just can't do
woman,
it.
by
Can't
the
even get
way,
like takeout or anything. It's just you have to eat there.
the woman told me. So I go in there on Tuesday. I'm talking about 9/11, and I mean Saturday. And again, it's 5 o'clock. She goes, it's about an hour and 40-minute wait for a table. I'm like, then I look at the bar and it's packed. I look, she goes, if you're lucky, it's going to be an hour to an hour and 20 minutes to get food, even if you're at the bar, because they're just that backed up with orders. Then she
Yeah.
tells me, come in on Tuesday. So I guess if you're listening or watching this and you really want 9/11 wings, your best opportunity to get them without having to wait forever, unless you go there right when they literally open, is on a Tuesday. So a little bit of a
Mhm.
pro tip here from talking to Buffalo. But anyway, enough about the wings. We got some actual important sports. What the hell are we doing talking about chicken wings and birthdays and 5-year anniversaries of this podcast? This is a really exciting time for Buffalo sports, especially obviously if you are a hockey fan. I'll tell you this. I said this on Twitter on Sunday, Joe. When it comes to the Buffalo Sabres,
Mhm.
it is a shame that I only follow the Sabres and not really the NHL. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like with the Bills,
Yep.
with the NFL. I'm an NFL fan. I follow the Bills quite obviously, but I could tell you about 30 other teams in the NFL. I could tell you their rosters,
Mhm.
their strengths, their weaknesses, the coaching staff, things like that.
Yep.
When it comes to hockey, and I don't try to pretend I'm not, something that I'm not. I'm not an expert. I do love the Sabres. I watch most of the games, and when I don't watch them, I read your stuff. I read a handful of people, so I'm always keeping up and
Mhm.
I'm informed with the team. But I'm not really an NHL guy. Like I can't tell you, I know the biggest stars, the marquee stars, the
Mhm.
mainstream guys, but I can't go team by team and tell you, a bunch of good players on each team. I can't even tell you, without looking at the standings 10 minutes before I talk to you, who's up there and who's down in the standings. I'm just being honest with you. And
Mhm.
it's a shame. Here's where I'm getting at it's a shame because the Eastern Conference is really shaping up to be a lot of fun here down the stretch. I mean, you're talking 7 teams that are fighting for 2 spots. This kind of feels like one of those like strap your seatbelt on kind of periods, ain't it?
Yeah, it's wild, man. Because now, I mean, we've known already that Sabres are in it with Washington and the Islanders and Pittsburgh and Florida. Like those are the main ones. I mean, you got Detroit and Ottawa creeping up now.
Yeah,
like Detroit's right there. They got the same number of points as Buffalo, well, at least right now. I don't know if they're playing Monday night, but they're right there. Ottawa's red hot right now. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. Detroit's 7-3 in their last 10. Like these are the streaks that teams will do to like get back in the race, because both of those teams, I figured, well, good luck for the lottery, guys. Like that's how it's going to go. But I mean, they're right there. I'm not buying them. Like, if we're doing a buy sell, I'm not buying either of those teams, but they're still there.
They're there.
And it's all it takes to get in the race is to play well. And now everybody's paying attention to what other teams are doing, which is great. Which just makes it fun. You have to learn you got to learn the rest of the NHL now, Pat, because
I know that's
Sabres are running around with 6 other teams now. So
I'm like, oh shit, I need to go on like ESPN.com and at least check and see what the Red Wings are doing, and the Islanders and all that. I'm like, God damn, I'm finally learning that I really do need to follow the rest of this league. It's crazy, dude. You want to hear something funny too? It's not funny. Normally, in fact, you've been doing this podcast now for 3 years. We'd be talking about draft. I'd be looking every day like, what are the Sabres' chances of getting Connor Bernard? That's all I'd be doing right now.
Yeah.
But I went on. So now my new favorite site is moneypuck.com. And I'm going on there every day. And as of when we're taping this, which again is on Monday afternoon, playoff percentages. Let's go, baby. Sabres, 43.2% to make the playoffs as we tape this on Monday. Again, 15.8% to win the first round series, 7.6% to make the Eastern Conference Finals, 3.2% to make it to the Stanley Cup, and 1.4% to win the Stanley Cup. I wish I had a sound effect from Dumb and Dumber when Jim Carrey goes, so you're saying there's a chance. But yeah, I checked this. I've been checking this tab on, I got it saved in a bookmark on my internet. I just think it's pretty wild that I'm actually tracking the Bills, or this, not the Bills. See, am I used to this, Joe? Tracking the Sabres, playoff percentages and chances as opposed to where they stand in the race for a lottery pick, which by the way, I just learned this today too, which I'm sure you've known this forever, but only the top 11 teams can get the first pick. Because I'm like, all right, well, maybe the Sabres give it a good run, but they fall just short. Maybe they'll still get lucky and get that number 1 pick. Well, you got to be in the top 11. But anyway, yeah, this is just nuts, man.
Yeah, Sabres would have to have a tragic fall of proportions that past teams have already done, which is unnecessary. It's unnecessary to have this team have to deal with. No, I don't want to hear anybody talking lottery until it's very obvious that they're going, if they're not making the playoffs, they're in the race. And, an easy tell, it's not an easy tell, but a good tell for whether a team's good or bad is you look at the goal differential. And if you're in the positive, you're doing good. And this, all the teams in that race, all 7 of them, they have the best goal differential of all of them. They're plus 14. Oh yeah. Wow. Plus 14. I mean, you're scoring more than you're giving up. You're doing something right. And I mean, the Sabres score a ton of goals, which means they're also giving up a bunch of goals, but they're outscoring the problems, which is pretty accurate for what they've done all season. But it's, it's fascinating. This whole team is just a fascinating group, and they're ahead of schedule. Like that's the whole thing for me is I don't think we were expecting this to be this close and this into the race this season. Next season, I think it was more like, okay, they're going to make an honest to goodness run at the playoffs next season. This season was like, okay, let's just see improvement, be better than 76 points, just, get to 85, get to maybe 90, whatever it is. And just be happy with that. But, right now, 90 points might be able to get you in the playoffs, because the top 6 teams in the East are beastly. Like the top 3 teams in each division, it's a knockdown drag out. They're literally the 6. Just double check as of like right away. Yeah, they're literally the top 6 teams in the NHL are Boston, Carolina, Jersey, Toronto, Rangers, and Tampa.
Wow.
Like that's the top end of the Eastern Conference playoffs. That's your 6 best teams in the league.
I think about that sometimes.
How about that?
I think about that sometimes, and I'm like, the Sabres, it would be like a handful of years ago when the NBA with the Western Conference was just so stacked and the Eastern Conference kind of sucked. Kind of feel like the Sabres are stuck in that a little bit right now. I feel like if they were in the Western Conference, their chances might be a little bit better. You're the guy who would know much better than me, but it just feels like they're in an uphill battle right now. But again, just to be in the battle itself is exciting. There just seems to be a lot more good teams in the Eastern Conference. I guess that's what I'm getting at than the Western Conference, right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Oh yeah, no, you're 100. No, that's 100% correct. And the West teams have there's a lot of flawed teams there. I mean, every team's got at least one flaw. Even the ones that are really maybe not Boston. Boston might not have any flaws, but like everybody's got some kind of issue. But I look at the teams in the West, and like some of these teams, I could pick out 3 or 4 issues, and like they're gonna make the playoffs. Like that's they're just gonna be there. But I mean, we're seeing the Blues trade everybody now, and like they're 10 points back of the second wild card spot. So they're done. Like that, it doesn't sound insurmountable, but you're talking they got 20. Oh geez, they got 26 more games to go. They got to make up 10 points. They're not doing that. Like you're just not like that's not going to happen,
right?
Because you need everybody in front of you to fall apart completely and just lose, and like that's also not going to happen. But like they've started selling off. Nashville might be cooked. Like they're 7 out of a playoff spot. Like they had a bad loss the other night. So it's and you're looking at the West. It's a playoff race with 9 teams essentially. Yeah, 9 teams, and only one of them is going to miss out on the playoffs, and it's going to be probably one of. Oh gosh, it could be one of anybody really. It's gotten a little bit sketchy there, but I mean that's a more fun playoff race because there's going to be one team left out. In the East case, there's a lot of teams that are going to be close to it
right.
3, 4, 5 of them are going to miss out after being right up there to the end. But you look around and like the Islanders, they've just lost Matt Barzal. Matt Barzal he's out week to week. Islanders are already looking dicey as a possible tough team. Like they got problems. They play a boring style. Like they're trying to 90s Devils their way to victories, and it's a scoring league now, man. You're not going to win games that way. It ain't going to happen. And now they lost like one of their best players. Like he's done. So now everybody's like, good, get him out of the way, clear the decks.
Let's
move past them, get him out of there.
Let's take a real quick break. We're going to come back. I want to talk about, I think is one of the biggest weeks for the Sabres in maybe a decade. I don't know if that's an overstatement or not. We'll find out right back with Joe Yerdon. All right, I'm back with Joe Yerdon. By the way, tomorrow on Wednesday's show, I got a Podcasters Roundtable, 3rd annual one. Greg Thompson from Cover One, Joe Marino from Locked On Bills, Bruce Nolan from the Bruce Exclusive. That's going to be fun. And then Thursday night, I'm going to be live at Imperial Pizza doing a show with Tyler Dunn, founder of Go Long. But anyway, that's later this week. Today, Joe, so it starts tonight. We're dropping this on Tuesday. By far their toughest test of the season. And like I said before the break, possibly one of the biggest weeks of Sabres hockey to come along in the last decade or so. You're talking Toronto at home tonight, Tampa on Thursday on the road. And then I believe they go right to Florida on Friday night. So back to back in Florida against obviously great teams. And then Sunday at home against Washington. That's 4 games, 4 big games. And, those, especially Florida and those Washington games are 2 of those 7 teams. And we're talking about they're right in the mix with Toronto and, Tampa much more firmly entrenched. But still, I mean, talk about this week, Joe. I mean, this is just a huge week. There's no way around it.
It's the start of a really, really tough part of the schedule for Buffalo. I'm not going to, I can't soften that blow at all. But this is pretty big. I mean, obviously, it starts with Toronto tonight. And that's the game everybody wants to, everybody wants to beat Toronto. Like that's just the way it goes.
Sure.
And now they've got Ryan O'Reilly, our old pal Ryan's on the team now. So, they've made their big move for the playoff battle, because they already know who they're playing in the first round of the playoffs. They're playing Tampa Bay. Like nobody's catching Boston for first place. Nobody's coming up behind them to take third place.
Right. It's
just a battle between Tampa and Toronto to see who gets home ice advantage in the first round. So they go out and get O'Reilly. I'm a big O'Reilly fan, so I think it's a great pickup for him. But he gets to come back here for his first game with the Leafs out east, because he played against Chicago on Sunday night. But it's it just helps add to it. Not that there's any animosity. Like there's no animosity here with O'Reilly. Maybe some of the fans are annoyed, but it's
right.
it's the old ties. Any old Sabre that comes through here, especially somebody who had a big role, it kind of amps things up. But Austin Matthews is back in the lineup. Mitch Marner, all these guys, like they're a great team. Everybody here hates them. So it's a big thing for the fans, and like that kind of stuff. Like the Sabres the Sabres players love that. They love having that atmosphere in the building. Like they get really up for that.
Sure.
The thing is, Sabres got to get better at home. Their home record is abysmal.
We talked about this last week.
Oh, it's. I mean, we got into it a little bit, but like you look at it, they're 11-14-2 at home. 17-8-2 on the road is incredible. Like that's an amazing road record. But 3 games under 500 at home, man, they gotta fix that now. And we got talking about it last week, but you go from the Leafs and then you're going down to Florida for a back-to-back, and that's a back-to-back that never treats them very well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of things where like ghosts of the past are kind of there. It's just like, well, this is how it always used to be. This team doesn't care about that stuff, though. Like that's the thing they got going for them. None of that stuff matters. But playing Toronto and Tampa back, 2 straight games, like that's thanks. Like thanks for that. And then Florida's had their number this year. What are they against Florida? Yeah, they're 0-2 against the Panthers this year. Like they've smacked them around 2 games here in Buffalo. Like,
yep.
You got to beat them. Like certain teams, the teams that they're running up against, the Pittsburghs, the Washingtons, Floridas, all them, those are your must-win games. Like you'd like to beat Tampa. You'd like to beat Toronto. Like that's, you'd like to do that. But of the next 4, you have to beat Florida. You have to beat Washington.
Right.
Like those are the ones you got to have because those are the direct competition for the playoffs. The other 2 teams, they're already you might just put the X next to their name now. They're in the playoffs. This isn't like me saying the Bills win in the AFC East in October. This is different. There's no way these teams are falling out of the playoff race unless they get zapped to the phantom zone. That's the only way. It's the only way they're not making the postseason is if they get transferred to another dimension. But it's those games, the Floridas, the Washington games. If you want to get beyond that, they're playing Columbus. You got to beat Columbus. They're the worst, one of the 3 worst teams in the league. Have to beat them.
Mm-hmm.
You go to play in Boston. Already won in Boston this year, so that's okay. But you can't be asking a lot. And that's the day before the trade deadline too. And then the game after the trade deadline, 2 games after the trade deadline. Okay. The next few games after the trade deadline, which is March 3rd, next week. Which I can't believe that's already next week. I can't believe it's March next week.
Holy shit, it is next week. That's right.
Yes.
Wow.
February being a short month. But the games after the trade deadline, listen to this schedule. Tampa at home against Edmonton, at the Islanders, home against Dallas, home against the Rangers, and then a 3-game road trip at Toronto, at Washington, and at Philly. And then they get to come home for Boston and Nashville and the Devils. The Devils, like they got to come on. Devils are a machine this year. And then
when you say it like that,
the schedule's insane. Like there's not really a layoff in the schedule. I mean, you could look at certain games and be like, well, they got to have that one. Like that should be a win. But some of those games they've had this year where it's like, they should beat them pretty handily. Nope, they don't. But This is a relentless schedule the rest of the way. It's mean. It's a mean, nasty schedule, but if you take care of your business, it's not so mean anymore.
I'm looking right now as you were talking. I pulled up the standings, and again, this is as of Monday. It's all right. So there's no getting around it. These are big games, and I agree with you. Especially when you're playing Florida and Washington, you can't be giving up 2 points to them. You could also look at it as this is almost like an opportunity for the Sabres as well, because you do look at games in hand, and they have 4 games in hand as of right now, as we're taping this, over Washington, and they trail Washington by just by 2 points, actually.
Yeah.
And then you look at Florida, and they're down 4 points. But how's Florida played 60 games, by the way? Holy shit, man. The Sabres have 6 games in hand over Florida right now.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like there's
2 more times too. Like
we're talking about a lot of pressure on the Sabres. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on Florida and Washington for these games too to win. I mean, again, Florida's looking at like, shit, this team's got 6 games in hand over us. I mean, that's it's crazy, some of the disparities in these games. Now, I know the Sabres had a couple cancellations because of weather.
Right.
And plus they've already had their break, but still, man, the opportunity is definitely there for the Sabres. It's not going to be easy, and you pointed that out. You laid it out perfect. I mean, with these games coming up, but it still makes for a fun opportunity. What about the goaltending right now? Talk about the job UPL has done. Where do you see the future with this kid right now? Now, I know the Sabres were sort of kind of having a rotation going for a little bit, but it's been this way for a while now. Like they're going to ride. I think Granato even said that, maybe even Monday today. They're going to ride the hot hand, and Granato, I mean, UPL's in net. He'll be in net tonight, Tuesday night. Just talk about what you've seen from him lately, and how Sabres fans should feel about him right now going forward.
I go back to that stretch in December where they beat Boston, and they beat Colorado in Colorado. They beat Vegas. All these games where they were getting outshot brutally, hanging on for dear life, and Luukkonen's making incredible stops and just keeping them in the game. And he, pardon me one second, losing my dry throat here, Pat.
Yeah, we're both fighting through a cold, by the way, for everyone listening. I've been coughing a couple of times as well. It's that time of year.
But I mean, Sabres fans, it's so weird with goaltending with Sabres fans, because you guys are spoiled. You got spoiled with going from Hasek to a couple of years with Marty Biron, and then Miller for 12 years or whatever it was. That's a long stretch of really good, like, Hall of Fame level goaltending. And it was the position you didn't have to worry about, because you're just like, nope, we're good, we're covered there, take care of everything else. So the standard is a lot different, and it's easy to pick on goalies, and the standard is a little different now because it's a heavier offensive league. So like if a guy's putting up like a 905 save percentage, even like 3 years ago, that's like, Jesus, that guy's the backup. Get him out of there. He's a bum. 905 is hanging you in games right now. You look at the top goalies, like, I mean, Linus Ullmark's number 1, and his save percentage is bananas, but he's also has the best team in the league in front of him too. But your top 5 guys are like, 920, 930, and then everybody else is way back down to earth. So it's fascinating the way that kind of skews the view. And Luukkonen, I mean, geez, he just keeps them in games. And it's like the old Grant Fuhr thing, where people are just like, that guy stunk. And it's like, yeah, well, he did good enough to win,
right?
And in Luukkonen's case, he's improving. I think there's something to be said about that, because it can be tough. It can be tough. I mean, he's a 23 years old. There's been a lot of expectation that he was going to be the guy at some point. Like, people have been waiting on him for a few years now, which it is what it is. And everybody started looking ahead to Devin Levi coming, and it was like, oh, Levi's going to be the guy soon. He's going to take over. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Luukkonen's got himself in great shape in the offseason. Finally didn't have any injuries to really get past. The injury he got at the end of last season was taken care of. If they played another round, he would have been back in for Rochester. But but I mean, like, he is focused. He is under control, and man, he makes some unbelievable saves. He's making some, like, heartbreaker saves for against opponents, like, plays where they're like, good, we got this nailed down, easy goal. Nope, stopped. Great, cool. It's those deflator saves, which is, for the psychological swings in a hockey game, man, those are a big deal, because if you put a couple of those up, and the other team's gonna start going like, what's it gonna take? Like, we keep getting these great chances, this guy keeps taking them from us. So it's people got a little grumpy about a couple of the two goals against in the San Jose game. One of them he was legally interfered with, but it's easy to nitpick the goals against, but it's also easy to look past the saves in traffic and things like that, where suddenly you look at the stat page and you're like, oh, he's made 35 saves. Oh, okay, that's a really good night. We won 4-2 and he made 30 whatever stops. All right, he did his job and he was really good. So I mean, he is the hot hand. There's without question. And he's kind of thriving in it right now.
It's good to see.
I'll put the Calgary game away, because first game after a week off, and you're playing a team that, played like the game of the year 2 nights before. Yeah, they're ready to play. They're ready to go. Of course, you're going to get your ass kicked in. But, the LA game too, like, you just flew in from the coast, flying in against the team that just smacked Pittsburgh around 5-0. Like, yeah, it's probably not going to be a great game to come out to the coast for. So, but they got the 2 wins they had to get. And Luukkonen played great against San Jose. So he's doing his job. He's He's taking care of business. And I think the bigger part now is that he's not losing them games. Like, he gets a ton of goal support. He gets basically 4 goals a game in support. So it's tough to lose. It's tough to lose games when you're getting 4 goals a night. But I mean, he's not costing them games, which I think is almost as important as it is to go outright and win them.
Yeah, for sure. We didn't talk about today, the Sabres West Coast swing last week. They won 2 of 3. I'm sure you and Lance talked about it plenty on Maintenance Day podcast. So make sure you go check that out. One last Sabres item for today. You mentioned the trade deadline, which I knew was coming up soon, and I actually knew the date, but I didn't realize until you said it that's like at the end of next week, man. That shit is next. That's next Friday. I mean, maybe next Tuesday we'll spend a little time talking specifics, but let me ask you this question right now. If the right trade is there for the Sabres, okay, and I'm talking, I'm not talking a 6th or 7th defenseman. That goes without saying. If the Sabres are going to be buyers, maybe a mid-round pick for a rental player along those lines, I get that. But let's just say the Sabres have an opportunity to go pick up a guy who is a top 4 defenseman before the deadline, or maybe a top 9 forward, a guy. Not just a rental player, but maybe somebody who's going to have term, who's going to be here for a while, or they'll have at least the opportunity to keep him here for multiple years. Now you're talking about giving up something in value in return for a player like that. Name me 1 or 2 good prospects on the Sabres right now that, if the right deal comes along, you'd be fine with losing. I'm not saying that you don't think much of this player, just prospects that you think maybe because of what else they already have, that they're more expendable than others. And name me a prospect or 2 that you want to do everything imaginable. If you're Kevin Adams, no matter who the player is that you might be acquiring, these are the last guys that you want to lose. You don't want to have to part with this 1 or 2 prospects.
I think for the first part of that, for guys that you could live with parting with, I take a look at Rochester, and I love Isak Rosen's game. I love it. Like, he's fast. He's got a nice shot. He's still lacking in size. Like, there's still a size thing there, which could hold him back. Like, I mean, he's gonna fix it. Like, he's gotten bigger already. He's getting stronger. Like, that's gonna be addressed. I could live with trading him. I wouldn't like doing it, because I think there's a lot of offensive upside there. I wouldn't like to trade him, but if he's somebody that somebody asked for, I would be like, okay, we can start there. Like, that's fine. Because I look ahead at what they've got, and I look at him, his size. I mean, it's not judging him by size. Like, that's not the case. Like, the talent supersedes size. The talent's good. But they drafted Matt Savoy last year. Another smallish size guy, big scorer, points. Like, he's having a little bit of a tough year this year, but I mean, whatever. You took him, 8th, 9th in the draft. Like, he's a good player. That's not somebody I'm eager to move. Roseanne, I wouldn't be happy with it, but I could move him. Yuri Kulich, no way. Not trading him unless you're getting me somebody that is an absolute impact player that I'm going to have for years. Like, that's the only way that happens, and it better be a really damn good player, because Kulich, I look at the way Kulich plays, and is he the
best prospect right now in the organization? Because I've seen a couple smart hockey people out there that have him, if not at the top, right near the top of just general Sabre prospects. He's like right there.
Yeah, you can make an argument for him. You could do Levi too, because Levi's having a great season in Northeastern. Sure. But goalies, I'm very nervous about goalies, because you don't know what the difference of them is going to be when they go level to level. Sure. That's why you'll always catch me pumping the brakes on Levi. I was like, yeah, no, the numbers are great, but like, see what he does when he goes to the AHL. Let's see what happens.
Understood. Sure.
But Kulich, man, if this team wasn't in a position where where they can have guys develop slowly, like they're in that position where they can just like have a guy play in the AHL, spend the whole year there, play there, and just improve their game, learn the pro game there. If they're in a spot where they were forced to move somebody up, like play them right away, Kulich could be an NHL guy right now. Like, he's a friggin' bull of a player. He's strong. He's hard on the puck. He's got a real nice shot. But he's 18. he's 18, 19 years old. But that dude his game is getting so much better week to week in Rochester. And it's, he's not putting up the gaudy numbers that Quinn and Peterka did down there. But, the goal pace has picked up a little bit. He's getting some more responsibilities, playing power play. He's going to be a real good one. He's a guy that I would say has a very strong chance of being in the lineup next season. But the way they handle prospects is definitely different than the past. Like, you can't just circle a guy and be like, yeah, he'll be here next year.
Right.
He might not be. Like, it's a very good possibility he might be in Rochester again, but at some point he'll get the call, and then he'll come up and he'll never go back, because that to me is the kind of talent level he's got. And we're seeing it in Rochester right now. He's damn good, man. He's a guy that I think that fans are going to really get excited about, because he plays that, and he's not a nasty player, but like, he'll take hits. He'll give hits too. Like, strong dude, physical player. He's got a good shot. I mean, it's all the stuff that you like. It's all the stuff you like to see out of guys that come up. Like, he's the guy that if you're asking for him in a trade, I'm like, you better bring the thunder with who you're offering. Like, because you're not getting him. You're not getting him, but if you're going to get him, you're going to pay dearly for it.
When we do our show next, we tape on Mondays, so maybe the Sabres have already made a trade by then. But if not, or if they do, we'll discuss that. And if not, we'll talk about some possibilities. I'm sure what I'll do is listen to Maintenance Day, and then I'll steal a couple of you and Lance's ideas, and I'll pass them off as my own and make it sound like I'm asking you intelligent questions to dissect here on Talking Buffalo. Quickly, before we get to our, I'm just calling them a 4-pack of questions to learn more about Joe Yerdon. But anyway, I want to just spend a couple minutes talking Buffalo Bills, more specifically Tremaine Edmunds. This guy, to me, I'm polarized right now. Like, this is fascinating stuff to me, because this is a player who is just turning 25 years old, going into free agency. We've heard reports that he's ready to test free agency. He's certainly not going to give the Bills any sort of hometown discount, and he's going to get paid. So this is where I'm coming at here. This is a case where the player has all the leverage. Like, the Bills want him back. I promise you the Bills want him back. I promise you that he is priority number one for Brandon Beane right now. It's not even a question. But the money that he's going to get is going to knock your pants off. I'm telling you now. If the Bills cannot come to a deal with this guy before he hits free agency, he's going to get a contract somewhere that averages 17, 18 million a year, probably front loaded. That'll make it more difficult for the Bills to, because his agent comes back and says, well, this is what we got. And Brandon Beane is just going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm looking at a deal that I think $15 to $18 million a year, plenty of money up front. I think this is a player, Joe, that the Bills, I know it's a player that the Bills do not want to lose, but I don't know that they can keep him. And we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. I was confident that Tremaine was going to stay in Buffalo. Now I'm not. I don't know how it's going to play out, which is kind of what I'm getting at, where I said this is polarizing and fascinating because you got a good player, a very good player. I don't know that he's necessarily an elite player, although he does a lot of things that you see, people see on film that you really can't look at the box score and determine his value. But it's just that, you know how it goes in free agency. You always see the one or two players that sign with the Raiders or Jacksonville, some crazy ass contract. I think he's going to be that guy this year. Somebody is going to cough up an enormous amount of money for this guy. And a lot of people are like, well, could you just tag him? No, because the franchise tag $20.9 million. That's what it would cost to tag him. Can't spread that out because it's not a multi-year deal. It's just not doable for the Bills. It would be almost impossible. So I don't know your thoughts on Edmunds right now. And it's just, again, a polarizing topic because if you're Brandon Beane, you lose Tremaine Edmunds. Now you got a hole right in the middle of your defense. And they put a lot of assets in their defense, which to a point where like Joe from Queens freaking hates it. They want all the money to go to the offense.
Right.
So, if he leaves, you got a big hole in the offense. If he stays, you can't really address anything else. Like that's your free agency, essentially bringing him back. You know what I'm saying? It's polarizing to me.
Yeah. There's a guy, the way you describe it and the way I've seen people talking about him, the Cover One guys, everybody, it's hard to not hear about Edmunds every week because because people either love him or they're just like, man, he ain't it. Like, it doesn't seem there's like a lot of gray area with him. And man, the guy, it reminds me of the discussions of his Gabe Davis. Like he's the defensive Gabe Davis, where it's like all that talent is there. You see it in spurts and flashes. And then other times you're like, what's he doing? Like, what happened there? Like, with Davis, it's like, how's he dropping these balls? With Edmunds, it's like, why is the tackle he's making, 11 yards down the field? Like,
where's the splash plays? Where's the impact plays with him?
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, if I'm Beane, there's a number that I'm holding to. Like I make him, obviously you make him an offer, you want to keep him, but there's a level I wouldn't go above for him because, and it, I don't know if there's any discussion about how like, Matt Milano took a hometown discount to stay because he's like, we're going to win a Super Bowl here. Like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, Bill's got a break on that one. But with Edmunds, it's like, how many times you got to get to free agency, like that's the other part of it. Your position is in demand around the league. I get it. You want to win, but also want to get paid too, and if somebody's, whether it's a Jacksonville or, Detroit, I don't think Detroit would be involved there, but like teams that have the cap space to be able to throw it around.
They should be if they get a chance.
Right. And it's tough because you don't want to lose him because who are you replacing him with? That becomes the question. It's, are you drafting somebody, are you drafting a linebacker in the first round and, making Joe from Queens want to, jump off the Verrazano Bridge or you got to find somebody in free agency who is like him, maybe less consistent, maybe not as good.
At half the price, maybe though.
At half the price, like, you can live with it. You might not be happy with it, but I think if you're Buffalo, that you've got so many other possible problems on just the defensive side of the ball with free agency and, injury questions and guys coming back and whatever. Right? it's very tough to pick out what position you want to make sure you're solid at. Like secondary could be a problem. Like I want to see Trey White after a full off season where he's healthy. I want to see what he looks like next year. You're probably losing Poyer, so you got to get another safety.
Yeah, you can't count on DeMar Hamlin being back. That's for sure. Not at this point.
No, and my gut says I think he'll be back. I don't know if it'll be right away, but I think he'll be back. But you've got some other areas that are problems right now. And if you go dropping, that kind of money to keep Edmunds, well, who's the safety you're bringing in? Who's if you got to get another corner, like who you bringing in? You got to get some help on the line or something like that. Like, how cheap do you have to go, to find guys that work like that? Your scouts have got to be doing a lot of heavy lifting to make sure they're finding some gems in the dirt.
You know what the magic number for this week's Talking Buffalo is, Joe? The number is 10. That is the amount of points that the Bills scored against the Bengals, okay? They need to do some work on offense. They need to improve this offensive line, and they need another weapon, flat out. Free agency, trade, draft, those are your allocations to address that. Now, you're talking about the defense. Let's not forget this. Sean McDermott is a defensive coach. Like it or not, that's what he is. Leslie Frazier, people were calling for his head the last 2 years now. He didn't leave, and he ain't going anywhere, okay? Not this year for sure. Now you're talking about a defense who's going to probably, almost certainly, I don't want to say 100%, 98.5% is losing Jordan Poyer, okay? I talked about this with Aaron Quinn last week. Even if the market around the league isn't what he's hoping for, I still say at the end of the day, if he feels the contract that the Bills give him is not what he's valued at, he'll go to another contender. Just because he doesn't want to take a discount like that, it's a step back to him. So anyway, I'd be surprised, but Tremaine Edmunds, you lose him and you lose Poyer. Now you're talking one of the best safeties in the NFL and one of the more productive linebackers who's really good in pass defense. You're losing both those. Well, guess what? And you're still in shitty cap shape, by the way. Even you lose Tremaine. Now you got holes, man, especially if you're working. If you have realized, now if you think the offense is good enough and they just need to run it back and be a little bit better, then I guess the offense is not big of a problem. But if you think that the offense needs some additions, and I do, and you do, and most people do, now you got to worry about the defense because you got the middle linebacker and your safety both gone. That might be your first round draft pick that you would have used on a receiver or a offensive guard, or that might be that one notable free agent signing or trade that you swing for. Now it's got to be for a linebacker or a safety, because I'll tell you, the Bills and Leslie Frazier's defense, safety is a very important position in the defense. Some argue even more important than corner. When it comes to Tremaine, I think he's genuine when he says he likes it here. He likes his team. He likes his teammates. He likes being here and likes playing here. I also know that he ain't taking no cheap discount like Matt Milano did. It's just not going to happen. This is you said it perfect. This is his biggest payday he's going to get in his life. This is going to set up his family for generations. He's going to go where the money is, as would I, and as would you.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's going to be really
it's a fascinating, it's a fascinating off season for Buffalo. And I hate being like the guy, but like we talked about this even like at the end of last season, like going into like this past season, we were like, this is the year they got to go for it, because you don't know what you're going to be able to do afterwards. Because of the Allen contract, like you knew, the Von Miller contract changed, that was like, oh, okay, that's what they're going to do to go for it. Okay, I get it. But you knew you're going to have cap issues, for the rest, for the next, 5-6 years, whatever it was. You knew there was going to be some, it was going to get tighter around some areas. So you knew you had to go for it. And they didn't exactly do that. I don't think they anticipated Roger Saffold to be as bad as he was. I think everybody liked that signing when they made it. Turns out he was toast. It's sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. But they had to have. I would imagine Bean had some kind of outline, because you have to know these things are going to come up, because Edmunds is going to ask for money. Poyer is going to want a big payday, especially after he goes all pro 2 years in a row. Like, Yeah, I know he's 30, 31 years old, whatever, but dude can play. Like, dude's good. You know, like, you got to pay him. You got to make sure Rachel Bush isn't sending you hate mail. Like, you got to do all those things. So, but it's, it's the job gets so much harder for everybody, for McDermott, for Bean, for everyone, like, because you gotta find ways to not cut corners, but you gotta find ways to get guys that are good, that are inexpensive, and that's hard to do.
I absolutely agree. And look, man, it's really easy to be every GM in the NFL who's ever been a GM has contracts and deals that they go on to regret afterwards. I think in hindsight, the Bills last year wish they would have either extended Ed Oliver so he had a smaller cap hit for these first 2 years now, or they didn't give him the fifth-year option, and right now he'd be the guy that they could lose in free agency. I would say 95 out of 100 Bills fans and probably media people as well would say the Bills would rather lose Ed Oliver to free agency than Tremaine Edmunds. It's just my personal opinion. Bring back Jordan Phillips at maybe a third of the cost. At the end of the day, I still think Tremaine is going to be back. However, the difference between now and 2 weeks ago is I feel like I'm guessing a lot more now, or maybe a couple weeks ago I was relatively confident. And I've remained confident that Jordan Poyer is going to go somewhere else. And unfortunately, wouldn't be surprised if that's Miami. And I know it's going to piss a lot of people off, man, but that's where he lives. They got they can find a way to make a multiple-year contract work with him. His girl loves Miami. So that's going to matter.
What would be worse, Miami or the Jets?
Miami. Although, and I'm telling you now, it's funny you say that, because this is a topic I'm going to hammer this home all off season. Last year, we were both talking Bengals, and we felt like they were disrespected and underrated. I think the Jets might be that team that I talk a lot about, and your Lions this offseason. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about the Lions, and I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about the Jets, especially if they get Derek Carr. I think they're going to be a dangerous team for the Bills in the AFC East. Anyway.
What if they get Aaron Rodgers?
I almost
quarterback road again,
I'm almost more worried about them getting Derek Carr than I am Aaron Rodgers. I really think Aaron Rodgers at this point is a selfish player who's at the end of the rope. He's way past his prime. Ty Dunn, we talked about him earlier. He has Bob McGinn on his podcast. He's been coming to Packers forever. He says that the Packers they're done with Aaron Rodgers.
I don't blame him.
He's not motivated. He can come into camp in shape. Doesn't care. They're basically skip the off season. So anyway, we'll talk more next week about that. And there might be a couple moves by this time next week. There might be a couple restructures, resignings, cuts. We might know a lot more about the direction the Bills are going in the offseason. But anyway, we're going to end with our 4 pack of questions for Joe. Again, we've been doing these for a few weeks now. These are just questions designed to give everyone watching and listening a little bit of insight into stuff beyond just sports, little things that irk you, things that you enjoy, things like that. And I got answers as well, but we got 4 of them. And I've been stealing these, and I said this. There's a Facebook group called Salad Recipes, which, again, this ain't got nothing to do with salad, but there's some interesting questions, and I steal these every week, and I present them to Joe. I got 4 of them. Let's start here. What grammar mistake annoys you the most?
Man, there's a few. There's certain things that will tweak me, and they come to mind if I see them like recently, like that. It will bug me. The one that I don't like is the Oxford comma debate, whether it's necessary or not. People are like, no, it's not necessary, and I'm like, okay. Then you write a sentence that doesn't have it, and it means something completely else. It's like, no, you need that to separate what you're talking about. But I think that's more of a, because, and I'll admit this, Bleacher Report does not use the Oxford comma, and I got busted on it recently for a piece. They're just like, yeah, we don't use that here, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, might get weird talking about trade stuff, and then it looks like I'm saying one thing, and it's not what I'm saying at all. But there's things like that. I think the one that gets me the most is saying not a cliche, but like an idiom or whatever, like with the wrong words. Like all intents and purposes, people would be, oh, all intensive purposes. And I'm like, no, that is not what it is.
I used to be one of those guys, not anymore. But
yes. The one that really tweaks me though is all of a sudden. I'm like, no, it's all of a sudden, not all of a sudden. And I hear it and like a synapse in my brain just blows up and I'm stop saying that. That's not the phrase. I don't even know if that's a grammar. I don't even think that's a grammar mistake, but it's, yeah, little things like that. Like and it's seeing it written that will just make me wig out because I'll just be like, you know how to write and you're writing it like this. What's your problem? Get it together. Like things like colon usage, semicolon, like that's get out of here. M dash. I got no time for those debates, man. Like a lot of how I write is how I speak. And then I like to make it look visual, like, so you can almost like not, I mean, you're spelling out literally everything you write, but make it so that when you're reading it, you kind of get the pace or the timbre and the pace of what I'm writing. I like to make it visually appealing as much as it makes sense. If that makes any sense. But yeah.
It makes perfect sense. Mine is pretty simple, and it's because of Twitter or just reading stuff that people write on social media. Resign versus resign.
Oh,
like
man.
when the Bills resign Tremaine Edmunds, like when they don't have that hyphen between.
Yeah.
There's a difference between re-signing the player and Joe is going to be resigned to losing this guy. You know what I'm saying? That as a sports fan, that kind of that drives me a little bit nuts.
Every free agent season, that one comes up, and it's like, no, put the hyphen in there. He didn't resign. They didn't quit. Like, he signed them again.
Let's move on to the next one here. What's the drink that everyone loves? Let's just say that most people love, because not everyone loves anything. What's the drink that most people love, but you hate?
Bloody Marys.
Good one. Me too.
Tomato juice in general, like it's an upsetting smell for me. Like that, and like it always happens on a flight. Somebody gets a tomato juice. I could smell that thing from the back end of the cabin. Somebody in first class gets one. I'm like, God damn it, come on. These things stink. And they're like, give me some salt and pepper for it. I'm like, you don't need salt and pepper for a drink. Get out of my face.
I couldn't agree with you more, man.
Man, Bloody Marys, something about it. Just, I mean, it's tomato juice mostly that irks me, but it's just everything about them. I don't know how people get down with that. It just looks gross.
Agreed 100%. I told you this last week. So Aaron, my wife and I went to Beltline Brewing. I went and I saw the Bloody Mary, so she got a Bloody Mary. I'm like, Bloody Mary before chicken wings, like gross.
Yeah.
Like, I agree with you. That's actually a perfect answer. I'm also, I don't like seltzer beer either. I know that everyone loves that shit. I'm not a big
hard seltzers
guy or something. Everyone likes those the hard seltzers. Not me. All right, two more here.
I remember when they were Smirnoff Ices and they weren't seltzers.
Yeah, me too.
They're all malt beverages, man. It's all the same thing, just packaged different.
Agreed 100%. All right, what's a weird food combination that you like that everyone else thinks is gross, but it really isn't? All right, I don't have to. We can even skip the second half of that. Just what's a weird food combination that you like that might be weird to most people?
I brought this up on Twitter a few years ago because it's an Albany. It's a straight up Albany thing, like not steamed hams like from The Simpsons. It's not that, but it's mozzarella sticks with raspberry Melba sauce to dip them in.
Ooh.
People hear that and they're like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Try it. Just try it one time, and your mind will be blown because there's nothing." It's fun to be at a place in Albany that serves it like be at like McGeary's. That's the Albany Bills backers bar. Oddly enough, it's McGeary's in Albany downtown, and was there one time. A couple of my buddies run the Bills backers club. Very coincidentally, like I'm not a Bills fan, but I'm just friends with Bills fans all the time. But we were there watching. It was a Bills preseason game, and there's a couple that was sitting next to us, and we heard them talking about like mozzarella sticks and raspberry sauce. What the hell's that? And we both, me and myself and Ed both go, get it. Like they're like, no way. There's no way that's good. I'm like, we're telling you, we're not pranking you. We're not trying to like, gross you out. We're like, you'll like it. I'm like, all right, like we'll give it a shot. Like they get a thing of marinara and a thing of raspberry just because, if it sucks, then they're not good. They want something else to dip it in. Loved it. Raspberry. I'm telling you right now, it's raspberry Melba sauce, man. And hot mozzarella sticks. It goes good. People are disgusted by the thought of it sometimes, and I'm just like, dude, think about it. Like, yeah, like you get a fancy cheese plate, you got grapes with it and all sorts of other fruit, like figs and shit. Like, well, you're eating cheese and fruit anyways. Like, why not get like a delicious raspberry sauce to go with your hot melty mozzarella sticks? It's great.
That is interesting. Let me run something by you. Tell me if you've ever had this or even heard of this. It might be more popular than I think. I used to think that I'm the only person in the world who ever had this. When I was growing up as a kid, my mother cooked everything. She's the one who made dinner 9.5 out of 10 times. My father rarely ever cooked. Once in a blue moon, like if my mom wasn't around and he had to cook me something, he would make. So he would put in the pot or on the stove a package of mashed potatoes, and cook them on the stove. Then he would boil hot dogs. And then he would take the hot dogs and he would cut them up into little pieces. And he would take the pieces of the hot dog and put them in the mashed potatoes and stir them up. And that was like my meal, hot dogs and mashed potatoes. But instead of hot dogs on the side and then mashed potatoes, it was like little bits of hot dogs cut up in the mashed potatoes, and you'd eat it with a spoon. So hot dogs and mashed potatoes. That's my like weird food item. I was raised on it. I don't know if my dad was the weirdest dude in the world and he's the only person who's ever done that. I think he might be, because I don't think I've met someone else who's eaten like that before. But yeah, hot dogs and mashed potatoes cut up.
I'm surprised that wasn't something in my house, honestly. That's like that sounds like something my dad would make, like just because it's in a pinch. He'd just be like, I'm gonna eat it all anyway, so just throw it together. And my dad's a big hot dogs guy, like he loves hot dogs, but that's definitely weird.
It is weird.
I don't know about that one. I'm guessing boiled hot dogs too.
Yeah, you boil the hot dogs. Yeah, you would boil them and cut them up. I don't remember if we even had a microwave back in those days. That's how fucking old I am, being a little kid anyway, man. Definitely was no air fryer. I can promise you that.
No, yeah, definitely not. Then that's a real weird one, man.
It's like kind of like a poor person's dinner. It's a poor person's dinner.
I guess it's like people do that with like mac and cheese. They'll cut up hot dogs with that mac and cheese, but.
I got $20. $20 says sometime this week, and I'll take a picture for proof that I just think I talked myself into making that at some point this week. I'm going to put the hot dogs in the air fryer, though. I'm not going to boil them, but I'm going to make a package of mashed potatoes, cut them up, and I'll send a pic. All right, last one here, and this is in honor of Joe's birthday this past weekend. I'm just going to come right on and ask you, buddy, what do you hate the most about getting older?
Man, I think it's just that like fun times from the past get further away. Like you think about it, like that's a harder question for me to answer, with it being like the day after my birthday, where I've been in my head thinking about a lot of this stuff. So there's a lot of things like fresh at the front of my mind, and that one, like my answer for that is kind of sad, really, but it's thinking about the times that you've had, and it's like, man, that was so long ago, and it never gets any closer. It only gets further away as time goes on. But like right now, I feel like I'm at that crossroads where, like in my mind, and like a lot of the things that I do, like attitude wise, I still feel like I'm very young.
Yeah,
like I feel like almost not quite immature, but just like I don't feel like, I think there's like the preconceived notion of what you're supposed to be like at certain ages, and like things that you're supposed to do and all that crap. But there's a lot of me where I'm just kind of like, no, I'm still young. I'm good. It's great. Then it's like, no, dude, you were born in the late 70s. Like you were born in 1979. That's now many decades ago, and you're not that young. Sorry, man. Like,
right.
Might need to catch up with some things. It's a lot of that stuff where it's, self comparison, self measurement type things, like, and I know like our generation is, our expectations are very skewed because things changed very quickly at some point. was like, by this age, you got to be married, you got to have a house, blah, 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 all that. And some point while I was growing up in a teen, it changed very quickly. And it was like, that's not realistic anymore. It's not gonna work that way. So good luck to you, buddy. You're the first generation that has all idea of what's supposed to be normal completely thrown out of whack.
Yeah, that's poignant, man. That's true. Piggybacking off that a little bit, I got two quick answers here. One is, as I've gotten older, I start to understand, I come to grips with the fact that we always talk about, we see these kids, teenagers, younger than that, even young 20s, who do stupid shit. And we always say, things were so much better when we were younger. Things were so much better, so different. Like I bet you my kids, not so much now because they're not even kids anymore, but, it's always got their face on their phones and social media and shit like that. And I'm like, when we were kids, our parents made us go out and this and that. We didn't have our faces on our phones. We didn't even have phones. Well, you know what? That's true. But you know what else I did? I buried my face in front of the television. My kids don't watch any TV anymore. I could tell you every TV show for the 80s, man. Day by day, I could go by station. So I spent my time watching television or playing Atari or Nintendo. What they grew up on. Ain't like we didn't play those games too. Now, did we play with other people with headphones in our set where we can interactively play with people all over the world? No, of course not. But we still did stupid, distracting shit as well. It's not like we were studying all the time and outside playing. Maybe our parents were, but we weren't. We were no better. We were just different. Just stuck my face in front of the TV. I watched TV for 50 hours a week instead of playing around on Twitter or Facebook. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
yeah.
That's one of them. And then the other thing is, it's just the older you get, the harder it is to lose weight. It really
don't
is,
even
man.
get me friggin' started on
it really truly is. When I was younger, Joe, God, man, even in my early 30s, I could eat whatever I wanted to, and I barely would gain any weight. Now I bust my ass. I try and these times where I do try, like legit try, not just say it, actually try to lose weight. I'll be like, man, I'm missing this meal. I'm eating something that's good for me instead of the whole hose and this and that. And I'll get on the scale and I lose like a half a pound, like in 2 weeks. But then I have one bad weekend. I go to get drunk and go to Jim's Steakout and I weigh fucking 3 more pounds than I did the week before. You know what I'm saying? So the metabolism going way down, not up. It would be going down.
Yeah.
It's as I've gotten older, that's frustrating. The point where it's almost like ready to just give up and just, it is what it is. It's really hard to lose weight the older you get, man.
The combination of the COVID shutdown and just not being able to really do anything and that and I was taking some medication that they were like, you might add some weight. Put on 15 pounds. I had like the freshman 15 in a month, like a month and a half time. And I'm like, are you kidding me with this? Can I shake it? No. Does it go anywhere? No, it's there forever now. And I'm like, come on, man, this is bullshit. Like all I did was take medicine and now I got to wear like different size stuff. Get lost with this. And it's just like, I know that it's not easy, but like, I know the ways to help correct that is to like, just do more stuff. But I'm like freaking tired all the time. Cause I'm old, man.
Cause we're old. Don't want to do all that extra stuff. You could still, again, it's not like people our age don't lose weight. There's just the margin for error just gets so much smaller.
Oh, yeah.
The older you get, you got to be perfect. Anyway, real quick teaser. Next week, we'll be talking about another big Sabres week because they're all big at this point. But, we'll recap this, talk about what's on tap for next week. The NHL trade deadline's coming up. I think there's going to be a couple Bills moves made by then, like maybe a couple restructures and stuff, so we'll have a better idea to capitalize. Here's a topic. I'm giving you a week at a time. I'm just telling Joe this for the first time. Newspapers, Buffalo News, Rochester Democrat, they're outsourcing their printing now. Shit's in bad shape, man. Sal Mariano tweeted today that he can't even cover Bills games anymore for the newspaper print edition because the deadline's 3 p.m. to get it printed for the next day. So the game recaps that he writes won't even be in the newspaper the next day. The Buffalo News is sending their shit now to Cleveland to get printed every day. You and I are going to have a nice little discussion about, I wanted to save this for next week because it's going to take some time. And I'm sure you'll have some thoughts on this too. But we're just going to talk about this newspaper print business. and all the shit that's going on. So that'll be a topic for next week. But anyway, make sure you follow Joe on Twitter. Maintenance Day Podcast with Joe and Lance drops on Mondays, usually on Mondays anyway. And of course, Noted Hockey. Go to notedhockey.substack.com. Just $5 a month. You can see Joe's work, busting his ass for you guys, man. Thanks a lot, buddy. Happy belated birthday. And it's always good talking to you.
Yeah, it's always a good time, man. And yeah, screw getting old. It sucks.